Today I find myself at Theydon Bois on a rather rainy day. Theydon Bois is a village in Essex. It's one of those places out east on the Central Line, just one stop from the end. Now, like many people, I'd often assumed that, with the name being spelt in a rather French manner, it should be pronounced as such, Theydon Bois. But I was informed that no, it's actually pronounced Theydon Bois. And the announcer on the tube pronounces it Bois. Some even pronounce it Boy. Apparently Boys and Bois are both considered acceptable. The spelling, I am told, is a relatively recent thing and actually owes its existence to the station, sort of. Theydon Bois station was opened in 1865, long before the Central Line was even a glint in its shareholders' eyes. It was built by the Great Eastern Railway. The Bois part of Theydon Bois comes from the aristocratic Norman family who owned the manor here. So it actually is French in origin, but for whatever reason it isn't pronounced in the French style. That's one thing everyone can agree on. It's similar to Hainault, which looks like it should be pronounced Hainaut, but isn't. I just like saying French words. Anyway, apparently there was also some disagreement in the 19th century over how Bois should be spelt. The Great Eastern Railway initially sidestepped the issue by just calling the station Theydon when it opened on the 24th of April 1865. However, by December they had decided to go with the full name and, so the story goes, consulted the clerk of the parish council. He decided that the French spelling was correct, and so it was from then on. Theydon Bois station is a fairly typical Great Eastern Railway country station of the era, consisting of a ticket hall with a station house at the end and 2 platforms. The footbridge was manufactured by William Arrol. Arrol's civil engineering firm was also responsible for Tower Bridge, the Tay Bridge, and the Forth Bridge. But of course the footbridge at Theydon Bois is what they're most famous for. Like most of the stations built by the Great Eastern Railway in Essex, Theydon Bois was a bit of a disappointment. In terms of passenger numbers, that is. As I've said in other videos, the lines out here were a bit of a gamble for the railway. They knew the area wasn't very crowded, but they figured that the presence of the railway would encourage development, and therefore create its own demand. It didn't quite work like that. Therefore, in the 1930s, the idea was advanced that this line should be absorbed into the underground as part of the New Works programme, giving it a direct link to the city. Initially, the plan was to only take over the line as far as Loughton. The rest of the line, including Theydon Bois, which in those days ran all the way up to Ongar, would remain under the control of the London and North Eastern Railway. Sorry, I should explain, the London and North Eastern Railway had absorbed the Great Eastern Railway in 1923. The takeover was completed in 1948, by which time the London and North Eastern Railway had been absorbed into British Railways. Because history is never simple. However, by that stage the decision had already been made to convert the rest of the line too. In the wake of the Second World War, which had brought devastation to many inner London residential districts, the London County Council planned several new housing estates out in the distant suburbs. Some of these would be on the outer reaches of the line to Ongar, and so it was felt that a proper underground service was justified. On the 25th of December 1949, the rest of the converted line opened. Although the section from Epping to Ongar still used steam trains as it wasn't considered economical to electrify. That's a whole other story though. Theydon Bois itself didn't undergo much of a rebuild for its new owners. The ticket hall was refurbished and of course the signage changed. The approach to the station is now one of the only streets in Theydon Bois with street lighting, which is one concession to modernity. The car park is another. And with the underground providing a better service than any of the station's previous owners, the station became much more successful. You might say, the boys were back in town. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this unpronounceable tale from the tube. If so, please do leave a like and perhaps subscribe for more content on tubes, trains and other things beginning with T. Thanks as ever to my always generous donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are the parish clerk to my station sign. And I'll see you all again very soon for another tale from the Tube.